Welcome to today's session with Red Hat, where they will be discussing reaping the rewards of application modernization with Red Hat. This session is a level 100 and is partner-led, and today you will learn more about how Red Hat was able to work with John from Counties Energy and Andre from Fujitsu. Before we welcome her onto the stage, if you haven't already, could you please download the AWS Summit app via the QR codes on the screen. Please join me in welcoming onto the stage Mandi, a Principal Solutions Architect from Red Hat. That's all yours. This is all yours. Andre.
Thank you. Kia ora, everyone, and welcome to my presentation today. So my name is Mandi, and that's Mandi, and I am from Red Hat in New Zealand. And today, I was inspired for our talk by a t-shirt that I saw in a Cirque du Soleil gift shop at the end of a show. And that t-shirt is the one I'm wearing today, and it says, "We rise by lifting each other." And it spoke to me on many different levels. I recently joined Red Hat, and so I was introduced to the world of open source. And in the open source, we stand on the shoulders of giants, which means we gather all of the innovation that happens. You might see one thing over here and you go, "Oh, I could use that to build something else." And so you take that, you build something on top. Someone else comes along and maybe gathers that and something else and brings that all together and builds something else. And as we evolve, all of these things come together to lift up the software, to lift up new innovations, to lift up everything. I was also inspired by that because I work a lot in the sports community and I work with children, and in kids sports we're often talking about how instead of competing against one another, how they can work together for the benefit of the team, how you can bring everyone together and achieve more greatness by working as a community. So what has this got to do with the talk that we're about to hear about modernization and reaping the benefits of modernization? So just hold that thought. And when we get to the end, I think everything will be made clear. So when you are doing modernization and you're in this world of DevOps, you're usually measured on something, right? So that measure in the DevOps world, there's a bunch of metrics called the DORA metrics. Now, it's not Dora the Explorer, but the DORA metrics are a way of measuring the success of your software development lifecycle. So in short, it's about how fast you can have an idea, imagine something, as we heard this morning, build that, package it up, and release it to production for your customers. And all these metrics, so the State of DevOps report gets released every year, and these metrics are shown in that report. And what they discovered was a connection between those organizations that had good numbers in this measuring system and these metrics also showed really good performance in the metrics that we use to indicate high-performing organizations, such as your revenue, the things you have to report to the board and to the market if you're a public company. And they were able to discover that elite performers have a certain categorization of those metrics versus low performers. And so using these numbers, you can also kind of go, it's a target, right? Because you can say, okay, I need to, let's look at the numbers. I need to be able to do 182 more deployments a year than my competitors, and I will be an elite performer. So all of these metrics, though, they're really about that idea of how fast can I get stuff from building it to out the door in my customer's hands. And it doesn't really matter what industry that you're in, those two ideas are the same. So an idea, develop it, get it out the door to your customers. I kind of like to liken this to like a balance, right? You're forever doing this balancing act by being efficient or getting things done faster. And then when you move it out to production, having it being stable or quality. Now you'll see those DORA metrics were on two sides of that, two on the efficiency side, two on the quality side, and there was a fifth metric, and that fifth metric was the platform. It's really that solid foundation underneath, and how good the platform is will really indicate how well you can kind of manage this balance. Now, every now and again, usually something happens, innovation happens, that maybe lifts up our ability to go a bit faster. And then that means that some other innovation has to come along to lift up how stable that can be in production. And it's kind of, you can think like you're always doing this balancing act between the two. And it's not really like one brings one up and the other puts that one down. It's more like, you know, one of those things like the toys that kind of climb up. I don't know what they're called, so if you know what that thing is called that kind of scoots up, tell me afterwards, because I need to know what the name of that is, so please tell me. But what I like to think of when this shift happens is it's like this little bit of a disruption of balance, right? So something happens and we go, oh, we need to do something else. And if you think about the open source world, that's how all that innovation happens, that eventually lifts us up, right? So I always have my greatest ideas in the shower, that's why I picked this picture. But those disruptions cause us to have technology innovations. And you have seen, hopefully, a lot of those innovations here today, things that have happened because we've disrupted that balance, and then you've got to kind of get it back in balance again. Now, there have been lots of innovations. Now, I know I look really young, and so you wouldn't believe it, but actually I have experienced in my working life every single one of these. I'm a very proud ex-COBOL programmer. So I definitely started back in monoliths and mainframes and those kinds of things. But then as these innovations happen and all these things work and we end up here. So in this world, in the Red Hat sense, we have a platform that has kind of evolved at the bottom of this. Now I know that there's actually another big leap beyond this, but I'm trying not to say the word that you've probably heard a lot today. I'm not going to say it today, but you can imagine what's next in here and the next kind of evolution that's disrupting us and we're rebalancing. But out of the end of that, we have OpenShift Container Platform. If you haven't heard about OpenShift, it is the leading container application platform for the enterprise. OpenShift is a Kubernetes-based container platform, but what we did there is Kubernetes gave us some ups, but as an enterprise, you needed to do some other things to bring it up and make it a really enterprise stable platform. So we added a console, which is the one thing that you can see here, still being able to be a developer and build applications as containers very quickly, extend the platform with things like serverless functionality, be able to quickly jump into your running pods and maybe just put more cat pictures up on the internet. Being able to expand the platform with very easy to find additional services, which is what we're going to talk about. Jumping into a console from the running pod, the container in production. Now this page here is something that we are going to talk about. It is adding third-party applications onto the platform. And then if you want to get into the 1.9 space, and we have a 1.9 assistant on there, which means that you can do things like ask it, I don't know, how do I run a VM on a container on OpenShift? Because yes, nowadays you can put virtual machines inside of containers and run them on OpenShift. Okay, so that's great. So now we have this innovation and business performance link. There's a whole pile of stats here that says basically if you do make things faster, you can have a direct bottom line impact. But what if your company is not the ones doing all the development? What if you all are not a development shop? You might be saying, oh, well, that doesn't really impact me. What if you consume COTS applications, commercial off-the-shelf software? Essentially, OpenShift is a commercial off-the-shelf software. But what if you consume one of those? What if your major application that you use in your organization is one of these logos, or there are many others? So the COTS developers, those vendors, they have actually been able to improve their DORA metrics by adopting cloud engineering principles, which means they can have ideas develop them, package them, release them, and get them to you, the consumer of that COTS product, faster, more stable. So you actually do have a downstream positive impact from the COTS development life cycle. So engineering practices, being able to shift to full automation for the delivery, and really kind of what they did in this case is not just, I mentioned you can run VMs and containers now, but that doesn't fully modernize your application stack, right? So it doesn't give you the full, might give you, in that little balance, might give you a little up here, but it doesn't really take you all the way up. So if we think about their traditional way of doing things in a VM, now those vendors have been able to completely modernize that and release it as a container, which you can run on OpenShift. What kind of things can you run on OpenShift? Well, actually, there's a lot. There's products, you can go and look at the Red Hat ecosystem catalog that are fully certified on running on OpenShift, and also just go to the AWS marketplace as well, and you can find many COTS applications that will run on an OpenShift cluster or a Kubernetes cluster. So there's another stat that this is kind of leads to as well, is that the developer velocity index, DVI. So again, that COTS vendor probably can improve their DVI, but you all as consumers of a COTS product get to reap the benefits of their modernization downstream and your utilization of that COTS product. So there's one more idea in here about OpenShift. OpenShift is everywhere. So if you now have a COTS product that can run as a container and you can run it on OpenShift, and OpenShift is the platform which gives you that number 5 on the DORA metrics, the stable platform underneath, and you can take advantage of the speed and efficiency and the quality and stability, but then you can run that everywhere, including on AWS, by yourself or even as a managed service. So go with me here. It's almost like you've been able to take that COTS product and lift it up to the cloud, as well as climbing the little fancy thing that someone's going to tell me the name of. And I would now like to introduce you to my colleague Lisa, because she is going to tell you a story of a customer who has done exactly that. So Lisa, would you like to come up?
I would. Thank you, Mandy. Appreciate it. Listen, we thought it would be interesting for you, now that you understand ROSA, COTS, the concept behind it, to actually hear from one of our customers. So I'm Lisa Kinter. I'm the territory sales lead for Red Hat, Australia, New Zealand. Joining me, we have John Martin. John is from Counties Energy, New Zealand, and we also have Andre Gomez from Fujitsu.
Hi, everyone.
So we're going to get straight into it. John, welcome. Tell us a little bit more about Counties Energy and the company structure, what you do at Counties. Tell us more.
So hi, I'm John. I work for a company called Counties Energy. We're kind of like Osgrid or SAPN here. We're smaller, we're in New Zealand, we're kind of a small one, much more modest in terms of that infrastructure. If you think poles and wires and transformers and those kind of things, that's the business that we're in. And my role is I look after technology strategy and architects and developers and all of that kind of stuff in our environment.
Fantastic. So, Mandy talked a little bit about things going out of balance from time to time. And they do, and that brings on change and that brings on innovation. So tell me, what was the trigger at Counties Energy that kind of moved you into this concept of needing to modernize your infrastructure, but also look at COTS as a potential solution? So
businesses like ours have been fairly traditional for 100 years. The software's been very traditional for 20 years.
Yeah.
But we're all facing a fairly large disruption right now. Not AI like everybody else.
Really?
Yeah, it's all solar and EV. And so when you build a network, you build to the peak load growth on the network, so the max demand at any given point. And solar and EV are changing that dramatically for us in the way that we manage it. And that means we have to get a lot more out of our assets and a lot more out of our network in the next 10 years than we have previously in the last 100. And to do that, we can't just do what we've been doing for the last 100 years and just do it more, because there aren't that many power engineers to just buy 3 times as many and try to build the network that fast. So we have to do smart things with software. That means working with our partners. That means working with software. In this case, Maximo is our asset management system. And you can imagine we have a lot of poles and we have a lot of wires, and they were put there 50 years ago, 100 years ago.
Oh, yes.
And we don't have the best data because it was done by people with pencils. And so that's the problem we're working through.
I see.
And so that's us.
So the shift to containers and Kubernetes, tell me more about the OpenShift decision and why you went down that path. What were the advantages for you?
So we're obviously a fairly good target customer for something like OpenShift because as an electricity distributor, we have a number of environments. We have on-prem environments to control the network and have SCADA systems and those kind of things. And we have cloud environments where we're putting all of this new stuff. And we're trying to figure out between those worlds. We're not committed yet as to how we handle that, so that's one reason. The main reason, though, is we chose IBM Maximo as the provider to help us. And to Mandy's point, we felt they were able to go faster and they're able to adapt, because everybody in this industry is kind of learning how this is going to work, and we're all learning on the job. And we need someone that can move and deploy quickly, and they were able to, and that led us to OpenShift.
Okay. Can you expand a little bit more on the relationship between AWS, Red Hat, and Fujitsu, excuse me, and how much that played into your decision making?
So we're a modest EDB. Like I said, we're not Osgrid. And I can't justify, us being community owned, and by a trust, we can't justify just firing up 3-4 new SRE people to manage just our asset management platform, which is what it would take to realistically get a proper uptime on that. So we need a partner to help us.
Yes.
And we need a managed service. Now, we have an AWS footprint already, so we have our security tooling in there. We understand how to manage that as Counties Energy, and I don't need to really re-augment my own teams to be able to accommodate ROSA.
Yep.
To build and deploy it, we needed our partner in Fujitsu.
Yes.
But it fit nicely into our ecosystem as a result of that. And we've had a very good experience using it as a managed service, the same way you'd use EKS or something like that.
Excellent, thank you. So that's a good segue to you, Andre.
Yes.
Can you outline the role that Fujitsu played in this implementation?
Yeah, we've had a relationship with Counties Energy for 2.5 years. They were interested in Maximo, and so we had a lot of discussions and built up that relationship. We obviously got contracted to do the design. We're a full service IT provider, and we provide the comprehensive services across AWS, OpenShift, and Maximo, and we've been doing that for a while. So that fell into place, as John said, and Mandy, in terms of IBM adopting OpenShift as a product to host IBM Maximo. And from John's perspective and Counties Energy, he could come to one service provider to provide that. So yeah, that's how we
Excellent.
sort of evolved.
And we went with this kind of buy versus build model. Can you talk about some of the advantages around that?
I think the key to this is that the OpenShift journey, obviously over the last few years, we sort of built on it. And using ROSA, it's buy, and it's there for you. So we can focus on supporting the business application of Maximo for John and our other customers as well. So, we use ROSA. We don't just build it OpenShift on its own, and so that platform using ROSA on AWS is what has driven us to that solution.
Great. So this is one of my favorite questions. I mean, we all know that these rollouts go perfectly as soon as they happen. So did you have any surprises along the way? Was there anything that, lessons learned that you can share with us?
Yeah, I think, look, at the top of the list, I think, would be the fact that we're dealing with multiple applications, many components. So with ROSA and OpenShift, version management of all the different components of the software is important.
Okay.
Because, you know, Red Hat, AWS have obviously the versions of their software providing to all customers. Then you got overlay that with the COTS product of IBM Maximo. You know, they move at a slightly different pace, so you really got to monitor your version matrix, what versions you're on, what's supported, what's not supported, and control that. And I think that's one of the major lessons learned, for lack of anything else. And we have a close relationship with John now on how we manage those versions. And you know, yeah, a lot of it also is in the automation of this, and we have done that, but John has a responsibility to count his energy through CAB, that we're not putting in software versions that are not approved, so we go through.
I think it's a new experience for us, because traditionally you wouldn't deploy multiple times per year for your asset management system. That's a very static system, and so you're not necessarily delivering on the whole CI/CD process, and all of your DORA metrics are usually pretty bad on something like that, right? And this has been new for us, and so getting to that has been interesting, but we're there now, and we are able to kind of deliver on the promise of automation, which is good.
Great. So touching on impact and tangible impact outcomes. What about improved, John, for you, improved scalability, time to market, operational efficiencies? Can you talk a little bit about that now that you've done the deployment?
So in the short term, the initial benefits that we're getting out of just pure ROSA is that I haven't had to train a whole SRE team to do it. That hasn't been a hiring process for me. My existing cloud ops people can handle it and send all the tier 2 stuff to you. So that's been great.
Good.
We've also been able to accelerate some of our innovation pipeline stuff, because we now see that we can deploy components as they become available from IBM, rather than in 5 years we'll do this, and these really long roadmaps that don't really come to much when you're looking too far ahead in the future. So we've been able to do that, which has been really good. And we've been able to learn on the job and do something wrong, make an adjustment to the software, deploy it back out again, and do something right. Because ultimately you've got people in the field.
Really important. Yeah.
And they're getting things in their hands and giving you answers back. And when it's not quite right, you've got to win trust. And the only way to win trust is to have a good degree of cadence back and forth.
Okay. Good. Can we touch on sustainability and your sustainability goals?
Yeah. So as an energy company, we have massive sustainability goals,
Of
obviously.
course you would. Yes, absolutely.
This program particularly helps us in that most of that is delivered by the assets themselves. If you imagine we have thousands of distributed assets, any way we can optimize visiting that asset base or keeping them alive longer. If you can keep a transformer alive a few extra years, that's a massive savings in terms of environmental impact. And then, of course, we have compute and those type of things in the cloud that I get from not trying to manage a cluster myself, doing it wrong, throwing it away, buying too many for my nodes, not buying enough, all of that kind of good stuff.
And I guess if we're looking at the way that your teams work together, so let's look at culture now. How did ROSA impact the way that your teams are working, or improved collaboration? What was the impact internally for you?
For counties?
Yeah, for counties.
For counties energy. For counties energy.
Well done.
I have a branding team. For counties energy, we were used to things like EKS and Fargate and those kind of things. So it's not really a big change from that point of view in terms of managing it for us. I know for you, it's a completely different story, but for us, it was fairly static.
And Andre?
Yeah, no, I think, in the early days, about a year and a half ago, when we were starting on this journey, when IBM went on to OpenShift, I think the key is like you say, the collaboration. There was a lot of interaction with IBM, OpenShift, Red Hat, and AWS as well. So even on the journey last, when we were preparing the system and the platform, there was a lot of collaboration between all parties, counties, Fujitsu, Red Hat, and AWS as well. So, yeah, no, that was very, very positive.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the future outlook. Where to from here in terms of the platform strategy, the expansion to potentially, I'll say it, AI, ML, edge computing, innovation, what's next?
So this will surprise you, but IBM sells a lot of modules when it comes to their asset management system. Yeah. And so really we're going along those that asset management lifecycle with them. Mm-hmm. There's a few key things that we're doing next in terms of expanding the footprint of which assets we're managing and how far we're managing down the network. But we're starting to build a capability called visual inspection, which is an AI inspection. You take a picture of an asset, you inspect the asset, the model inspects the asset, tells you what's available on it.
Interesting.
And that gets over the problem that I described earlier of, 50 years ago, somebody wrote down with a pencil, there is a pole here, maybe. They didn't write, there's 3 cross arms, and there's this many insulators on it, and this is the type of cabling or anything like that. So that's the process for us. So just building out the app and letting IBM do IBM things.
There we go. So in the project, and Andre, I'll direct this at you, is there any advice that you would offer for other industries or energy providers? Any advice in terms of the rollout?
I think the key point, obviously, we are, like I mentioned, full service provider, but I think the key here is to embrace the technology because it is good, and it, simple things like getting an environment up, the speed to which we can do that now is incredible. And take, for example, John was talking about visual inspection. It took us hours to spin up a new OpenShift application with Maxmo visual inspection and do a proof of concept with John. So Fujitsu has that capability and working with the technologies there, so yeah.
Fantastic. And I know we're kind of running towards the end now in terms of time. In one word, can you describe the project overall across, AWS, Red Hat, Fujitsu?
I think for me the key thing is the collaboration we talked about. The focused collaboration around the technology, because there are a lot of moving parts, but when that's done well, the power of what we have at the end is, incredible. Yeah.
I really like that. Thank you, Andre. And John?
For me, it's, I guess, beginning, because this is the first part of a journey for us. We've kind of built ourselves a little platform for growth here. And so we can grow it, expand it to other applications.
Beautiful.
Move on.
That's great. Thank you both for your time and also for being so open in the discussion. If you would like to hear more about Red Hat, AWS, or Fujitsu, people will be at the booth. It's just out and to the left. I can see it from here. So please head to the booth. There's also, if you check your app, there's plenty of sessions happening throughout the day today and tomorrow. Thank you and have a great afternoon.
Perfect. Can we have a round of applause for Mandi and the Red Hat team? Thank you for showing us here today what Red Hat has done with Counties Energy and Fujitsu to drive application modernization. In a moment, I'll be putting the QR on the screen. Please do take the time to provide feedback for the Red Hat team. Thank you, everyone.